very little, or insignificance. Karma, activities. Kalpa, rightly executed. Api, even. Vipalaya, go in vain. Ishvara Arpita, because of being dedicated to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Kalpate, it is so accepted. Purushasya, of all persons. Eva, indeed. Sa, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He, certainly. Atma, the Supersoul, the Supreme Father. Dayata, extremely dear. Hita, beneficial. This is translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktisiddhanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Activities dedicated to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even if performed in small measure, never go in vain. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, being the Supreme Father, is naturally very dear and always ready to act for the good of the living entities. Purport. In the Bhagavad Gita 240, the Lord says, does anybody know 240? You probably know it when you hear it. Swalpamapyasya dhammasya trayate mahato bhayat. This dharma, devotional service, is so important that even if performed to a very small, almost negligible extent, can give one the supreme result. There are many instances in the history of the world in which even a slight service rendered to the Lord has saved a living entity from the greatest danger. Ajamil, for example, was saved by the Supreme Personality of Godhead from the greatest danger, that of going to hell. He was saved simply because he chanted the name of Narayan at the end of his life. When Ajamil chanted this holy name of the Lord, Narayan, he did not chant knowingly. Actually, he was calling his youngest son, whose name was Narayan. Nonetheless, Lord Narayan took this chanting seriously, and thus Ajamil achieved the result of Ante Narayana Smriti. What does that mean? Ante Narayana? Not exactly.
We should remember at the end of life.
At the end, yeah. Ante is the end. Narayan means Narayan, and Smriti is remember. So end, Narayan, remember. But it means the end of life. Remembering Narayan at the end of life. If one somehow or other remembers the holy name of Narayan, Krishna or Ram at the end of life, he immediately achieves the transcendental result of going back home, back to Godhead. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is actually our only object of love. As long as we are in this material world, we have so many desires to fulfill. But when we come in touch with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we immediately become perfect and fully satisfied. Just as a child is fully satisfied when he comes to the lap of his mother. Dhruva Maharaj went to the forest to achieve some material result by austerity and penance. But when he actually saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he said, I do not want any material benediction. I am completely satisfied. Even if one wants some material benefit from serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this can be achieved extremely easily without hard labor. Therefore, the Shastra recommends Akama savakamo va mokshakamo hudaradi tivrena bhakti yogena Jai. Jai, this is a very key verse for conditioned souls. Translation is, whether one desires everything or nothing, or desires to merge into the existence of the Lord, he is intelligent only if he worships Lord Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead, by rendering transcendental loving service. Bhagavatam 2:3-10. Even if one has material desires, one can undoubtedly achieve what he wants by rendering service to the Lord. Mukam karoti vachanam pangam mango tevim tapi patamaham vande shri gurun dinataranai namam vishwadaya Krishna style. Somebody bhakti swamini namani namah shri Krishna style. Somebody bhakti vedanta swamini namani. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nivasati Samivadi Parishat Vanchakalpatrubhishcha Kipasambhudi Aditya Tananda Rani Deva Vaishnava Namaha. So Prabhupada in the purport, he mentions two famous histories of famous stories from the Srimad Bhagavatam. One is the story of Ajamil. You could say it's a history, it's not just a story, it's a true story. And then the history of Dhruva. And he gives them those histories to illustrate the points that he's making. So the first point is that even a very small amount of devotional service is enough to satisfy the Lord, to the extent that we can be saved from hell. Which seems like very generous, very kind. We only have to do a little service. Krishna would be satisfied. Well, we might take that to think, okay, well, I'll just, maybe I'll offer some flowers to Krishna and Balaram, and then that will do. I can leave it there. No need to, do all these other things. The temple managers want me to do all of these sorts of jobs every day. And, well, maybe it's not necessary. But actually a devotee doesn't think like that. It may be possible just to satisfy the Lord by one simple devotional act. But a devotee actually thinks, how can I serve Krishna more and more? How can I give Krishna more and more pleasure? He wants to completely absorb himself in how to give pleasure to the Lord. So there's that would be more like the other end of the spectrum. But you can start by just giving a little service to Krishna. Krishna then can save you from hell, and then you can start your devotional service. Ajamil was saved from hell, and then he started speaking loudly because somebody can't hear properly. Yes, he was saved from hell, but then he went to Hardwar in the Himalayas, and he went and completely devoted himself to chanting seriously and purified himself. So it wasn't that he just chanted Narayan once or several times at the time of death, but he actually then took up very serious devotional service. So this verse, Ante Narayana Smriti, I wanted to read that. It's very also famous, nice to meditate on. So I just have to find it on my Kindle. Etavan Sankhya Yogapyam Sudama Parinishtaya Jamalabha Parapumsam Ante Narayana Smriti. And translation is the highest perfection of human life, achieved either by complete knowledge of matter and spirit, by practice of mystic powers, or by perfect discharge of occupational duty, is to remember the personality of Godhead at the end of life. So that's our goal. That's the goal that we have, to remember Krishna. So in order to remember Krishna at the end of life, we practice remembering him on a daily basis. So our whole life is organized around this practice of remembering Krishna. So we get up in the morning and we see the deities and we chant the name of the Lord, and we read and hear about other people who remember the Lord in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And during the day we do service for Krishna, which helps us engage our gross senses in the service of the Lord. I was talking to Manjurali about cooking, and she said, I should cook simply. She said, but I like to do extra things for Krishna. In other words, she means that she's meditating on Krishna while she's cooking. So this is the idea, that we do our service as nicely as possible because it's for Krishna. If we do it in a resentful mood, oh, I have to do because, wow, they asked me to do it. That is some kind of service. It's service in the mode of ignorance. If we do as nicely as possible because we want to give our heart to Krishna, we want to do it in the best possible consciousness, that's what actually is closer to real devotional service, or like transcendental devotional service. Maybe at least devotional service in the mode of goodness. If you do devotional service in the mode of goodness, you're doing it at least for your own purification, for your own liberation. You understand why you're doing it. But transcendental is even better when you're actually feeling some nice connection with Krishna. So this is how we spend our day, and then in the evening we can again chant or read, come to the program, see the deities, go to sleep after hearing some Prabhupada class. So then we're increasing our chances, hopefully. We will be able to remember Krishna at the time of death. If we're fortunate, we will have devotees around us. And when we're lying in our deathbed. Yeah, maybe. I hope so. I hope so. I don't want to get smashed in the back of a bus or something. I'm out shopping or something. Please, Krishna, let me have a devotee death. So the devotees are chanting loudly, and you're lying there. Krishna, Hare Krishna. And it helps, you know, if you can remember Krishna. They hold a picture and they put a tulsi leaf on your tongue and put Radhakan water on your head and a Maha garland. Hopefully we can have a nice departure, or we can deserve to have a nice departure like this, remembering Krishna at the end of life. We can't count on being like Ajamil, who he's actually spent his whole life being grossly sinful. Even by Kali Yuga standards, he was grossly sinful. He was killing people and all sorts of criminal activities in order to get money to maintain his... I don't even know if he actually married the woman. He was actually married to a very chaste young lady, and he left his nice chaste Brahmani wife, and he was, started living with his prostitute. And had lots of children, and of course to keep her happy, those kind of ladies like money and a nice lifestyle, so he was busy his whole life trying to get money by hook or crook to keep her satisfied, and also to maintain the whole tribe of children that he gave her. Anyway, so he was sinful. But he managed at the end to call out for his son. He panicked. Why did he panic? It's because time of death is scary, but he saw the Yamadutas, the big hairy Yamadutas coming with chains and dogs. They would be very, very, very scary. 3 of them, apparently 3 of them. Said they had awkward, distorted features, so like these big monsters coming. He's like, oh, they called Narayan, which was his biggest attachment, was his younger son. Luckily he didn't call out for his wife or his girlfriend, whoever she was. He was very fortunate. But he had a lot of, already he had devotional credits. Yeah. He had devotional credits because in his early life he had been a serious devotee. He'd been a trained up, nice young man, like we have this Vishnu Jan. He's been nicely trained up by his father. Because don't go the same way as Ajamil, okay? You just carry on being serious devotee. But Ajamil was a young man, and he had to go out to pick some flowers. And while he was out picking flowers, he saw something very improper. Some people, a man and a woman, embracing publicly, with sexual intent publicly, and this disturbed his mind. And then he couldn't forget. And in the end, he actually went and found that particular woman. And then spent the rest of his life being sinful, very, very sinful. But anyway, somehow or another, he managed to remember his son. By Krishna's mercy, Krishna helped him, or gave him the clue, Narayan, at the time of death. And because he chanted Narayan, not only had the Yamadutas come, but then the Vishnu Dutas came. So the Vishnu Dutas are the messengers of Lord Narayan. And they came to take him to Vaikuntha. So you had on the one side of his bed, they had the Yamadutas saying, "Well, come on, Ajamil, time to take a journey downwards." And on the other side, you had the Vishnu Dutas saying, "Well, we have the flower airplane ready. Come on, Ajamil, come with us." And the two parties then had an argument, and Ajamil was just in the middle, like listening to this argument between the Yamadutas and the Vishnu. And he heard the whole thing. And they talked a lot. They talked about all the different religious principles, who's actually in charge of the universe. Is it Yamaraj or... No, there's somebody... The Yamadutas couldn't believe it. There's somebody more than Yamaraj. There's a higher authority than Yamaraj. So then the Vishnu Dutas explained this whole situation. And after hearing all that, Ajamil was completely fixed, and now I'm going to serve Lord Narayan. Now I'm going to forget this hellish life I've been living. He became very serious. anyway, the point that Prabhupada quotes this history to make the point that Ajamil just chanted Hare Krishna, chanted Narayana briefly, and got saved. So the potency there is in the chanting of the holy name. It is the little service, little service attitude. Is the holy name weak? So we can meditate on this. If we chant, we can think how if we practice this chanting, it will save us. It will actually save us from. Even if we don't even think about hell, we could just think about ordinary material life and how difficult and fraught and stressful and dissatisfying it is. We can meditate that we've actually been saved by Srila Prabhupada's shelter. We've been given a so much better future. Real life, eternal life. So the other story is Dhruva Maharaj. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he used to listen to the history of Dhruva Maharaj every day. He would listen to the story of Prahlad and the story of Dhruva every day. So there's obviously great transcendental potency and great transcendental pleasure to be had of all the things that Lord Chaitanya could have been hearing. He chose to hear from these stories. So Dhruva was a little boy, and he became very angry when he saw his father, when he saw his father taking his brother on his lap. So his father was a king, a great king, and Dhruva was a prince. And he saw his father, the king, taking his brother Uttama on his lap. And being a little boy, he thought, oh, I'd climb on my father's lap too. And he tried to climb up. And his father went, no, like this. And you can imagine the poor little boy's heart. It's like, oh, what's happening? Daddy doesn't want me on his lap. For a child, that's quite a big, serious event. Yeah. And then the queen who was the mother of Uttama, she was called Suruchi, which means a nice taste. Yeah. The king's best favourite wife. She was there and she said, you cannot sit on the king's lap. You have not taken birth from my womb. So nasty, so envious. So Dhruva ran away, And he went to his mother, and he said he was very angry. He had a Kshatriya nature, a prince. And he was very, very angry, and he was said he was breathing heavily like a snake that was being hit by a stick. Like, when you get really angry, he's like, he ran to his mother and explained what had happened. And his mother was called Suniti, and that means the rules and regulations, the proper rules and regulations, because she was more serious. She wasn't so much fun for the king as Suruchi. The king was attached to Suruchi, but Suniti was more just like, he was maintaining her out of duty. And she said, well, it's true, I'm not the favourite queen. Somehow or another you've grown up in the palace, but I cannot help you. I'm not able to do anything. She said, but Krishna can help you. Oh, so Dhruva asked, where can I find Krishna then? Where can I find him? He can help me. He said, I'm going to get my own back for this. I'm going to get a bigger kingdom than my father has. Because he understood that his brother would inherit the kingdom. So he wanted to get something better. He had so much spirit of, anger and revenge. He thought, this is it, this is what I'm going to do. And on the spot, he determined that that's what he was going to do. So then he was interested to hear about Krishna who would be able to help him. So his mother explained what to do. You go to the forest, you find some sages, they will know where Krishna is. And so he took off, he left home. 5 years old, he left home. He went to a place called Madhuvan, which is one of the 12 forests of Vrindavan. You can actually go there and you can see the place where Dhruva did his austerities. And you can meditate on what he was doing. He was standing on one leg, and he was gradually he became more and more austere until he was only, I think, breathing once every 6 months or something like that. Taking one breath. He was doing Ashtanga yoga and concentrating on the Lord. Anyway, after a short time, the Lord appeared to him and asked him what he wanted. But as Prabhupada says here in the purport, when he actually saw Krishna, he just forgot all about his material desire. His material desire went gone. He thought, how stupid. I wanted this kingdom, I wanted this material thing. In other words, something temporary. But look how beautiful the Lord is. And he just realized he'd put his money in the wrong bank account, if you like. He'd been meditating on something insignificant compared to achieving the association of the Lord. So we can take instruction from Dhruva that if we have material desire, which I have to admit I have material desire, and probably if all of us were honest, we would say yes, we have material desire. So if we have a material desire, we can ask Krishna, or better is to let Krishna fulfill them if he wants to. Generally, Krishna will arrange for our material desires to be discharged in some way. Either they'll go away, or we'll fulfill them in a way that's just so unpalatable, we don't want to have that desire anymore, get rid of it, or he'll fulfill it, and then we can, then become peaceful. Krishna will take care of our material desires. It's not that we have to go to the demigods, pray to Lord Shiva or Durga Devi or somebody for our material desires, because we don't want to bother Krishna with them. It's actually better to ask Krishna if we have something that's really burning our heart that we really want. Better to ask Krishna. I have to admit that I've done that a couple of times. Prayed to Krishna for something that's not pure devotional service. But Krishna did reciprocate. But the best thing, the pure devotee only prays to be engaged in service. In Aka, was it? Anyabhilasita shunyam gana kama anavritam. So your desire is to serve. There's no anavritam, there's no vritam of jnana or karma. So those are the two things that cover our heart, the desire for mental speculation and the desire for material enjoyment. Those are the two broad categories, but they contain everything. Those two categories, karma and jnana, they contain everything that we might do that's separate from Krishna, that we want to do, that would be separate from Krishna. So these two things, we have desires in one or both of these categories. But Krishna will fulfill them. Akama, savakama, va, mokshakama, udaradi, tivrena, bhakti yogina, yajita purisham param. Tivrena means intense, like very focused. The word tivra means like the ray of the sun, like the sun rays, focused in one. So if our devotional service is very focused like that, it doesn't say, if you have all these material desires, just serve Krishna in a lackadaisical way, just kind of every now and again say Haribol, or maybe we can chant a few rounds here and there, go to Janmashtami or something, and then Krishna will fulfill your desires. No, it's focused devotional service. So the idea really is that you're being encouraged to really do devotional service, and then you know that your material desires will be taken care of. It's like a package. Krishna will say, okay, you serve me nicely, and your material desires will be sorted. You don't have to go, it will all be taken care of. So, okay, I'll do the service. Okay, and then you're waiting. What's he going to do? Is it going to come? Yeah. Oh, yes, he did. He sent me a new pair of shoes. Jai! It works. And then you do more service. Yeah? So gradually you become purified, become enthused and purified. Until in the end, like Dhruva, you realize, oh, all these material things. I don't really need a house. I don't really need 20 silk saris, whatever it is. You just need Krishna. And that is actually the truth. Yeah? The truth is that we only need Krishna. Prabhupada says in the purport, Krishna is our only object of love. So all this other stuff, all this other stuff in the material world that we go after, like little deer running off into the desert, all this stuff we go after, it's all illusory. It's illusory. But it seems real, and the desire for it seems even more real, you could say. When you really want something, you really want it. You can obsess your mind, material desire for something, but it's all under the power of illusion. So the reward for devotional service, the real reward is not having your material desires for it. The real reward for devotional service is to have this illusion removed. When the illusion is removed, then you see the world for what it is. You don't see it as some very attractive, glittering, phantasmagorian, all these things for me to enjoy. Just look on, Amazon. Wow, all these things I could buy. Or you look in the supermarket, all these different computers, all these different mobile phones. Look, wow. Or you look in the brochure for foreign holidays, or etc., etc., etc. Your mind is bewildered by all these things. No, you just see. Actually, this material world is just the senses and the sense objects. And it's nothing to do with me. Nothing to do with me. I have senses, okay, but the sense, connecting your senses with the sense objects, that's all it is. That's all it is. The senses aren't even you, and the whole endeavor is to connect these senses with the appropriate sense objects. That's all we're doing. That's all we're doing in the material world. And we think, it's so nice. It is not nice, it's just embarrassing, it's just a waste of time. From the highest spiritual point of view, from Krishna's point of view, he sees that, the jiva is just rotating through all these different lives, just, trying to enjoy here, trying to enjoy there, trying to do this, trying to do that. It's like if we see somebody who's drunk, wandering around, staggering around, you think, what are they doing? It's crazy. Crazy, it's just, just stupid. So from a spiritual point of view, the living entity is like that. He's just, Prabhupada says loitering, just loitering around. Nonsense, doing nonsense. When we could be with Krishna, we could be in the spiritual world with Krishna. So, okay, so now we're in transit. We're transit out of here. We're out of this nonsense place. And making progress back to proper consciousness. So we serve, our consciousness becomes purified, we're less and less attracted to the material energy, and as we get less and less attracted to the material energy, we become more and more attracted to Krishna. So why aren't I attracted to Krishna? Why do I feel no real taste? It's because the heart is still covered. It means more purification is needed. We have to apply the process seriously. And the more seriously and steadily we practice the process, the more we actually get the purification. If you practice in a half-hearted way, you're not really going to get the result. You have to practice properly the process to get the proper result. Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Has anybody got a comment, question, objection, correction?
Yeah. In 1994, Gauranga Maharaj came to France, and it goes back to what you about Jamil, when Yamanuta came and Vishnu came. So Bhagavati Maharaj gave a very nice, asked a question to the devotees. And he asked, why 4 Vishnuta came? Why 4? And one devotee raised a hand and said that 4 Vishnuta came because now,
Right. Yeah.
And Guru Maharaj said, yes, I love 4 syllables. 4 Vishnuta came because 4 Narayana, 4 syllables. And I was very surprised. And it's very interesting because when you talk, it's very embarrassing to me as a man because, you know, Guru Maharaj spoke in the same line than you and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati when he said that actually in this world everything exists as paraphernalia to give ecstatic pleasure to the Supreme Lord.
Yeah.
So only object of love is Krishna. We have to swallow it, and other things is temporary. We have to go with material desire, but ultimately Krishna is the only object of love. And Guru Maharaj, he was swayed on this point. He was, and it's we cannot go wrong. We cannot go wrong. It's impossible. We cannot go around this period. We have to train. The place where we are going is like this. We go to a place where Krishna is the only object of love. But actually we have to deal with our material desire. But ultimately we have to give up because there's no. Everything exists to give pleasure to Krishna. There's no other means. No other.
But if we at least have that realization, isn't it? At least we realize that everything should be offered. Even if we're in the material world, everything should be, you know, then it becomes spiritual.
Yes, it becomes spiritual.
Everything should be offered to Krishna. So all the things that everything that we're surrounded by can be used for Krishna.
Yes.
And that's the way out. That is the way out, is to meditate like that. That is the way out of the world. Instead of being bewildered by the sense objects, then we take the sense objects offer them to Krishna. Yeah, that's the way to get out. When we're attached to them, then at least we can use them.
But you were saying, and because of course in the spiritual world everybody loves Krishna and wants to serve him, but we can forget that everybody wants to love and serve everybody. That's what because they're all parts and servants of Krishna. So that's why it's so wonderful. It's not just Krishna is not alone. Krishna. No, all his servants. The cow. So that's why now we are practicing relationships, with devotees also. It's very important. It's not just going to be Krishna and Radha in the spiritual world. So now we're in practice, as we say, in transition. So how we deal with devotees, how we treat them, very important.
Right. It seems like when you do service with somebody, that's when the relationship is nice. Yeah, you can't try and have relationships outside of serving Krishna together. Like if you chant with somebody, or if you read together, or if you go and clean the pots together, or if you go and dig the garden together, then you create a bond, because it's a relationship based on Krishna being the center. It's not a separate thing. But this is, so if we're serving Krishna as a community, the community will be together as a community if we have a focus of serving Krishna. That's my understanding.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean you don't see somebody sick, somebody needs help. It's like one time we just don't narrow.
But that's if I'm taking care of a sick devotee, because that's my service to Krishna. That's my service to Krishna. Krishna still has to be involved, isn't it? I go to the hospital to see the sick devotee, but I take them some Krishna prasadam and maybe a book to read, and then, it's all part of service. Krishna, it has to be the focus in what we're doing.
Yeah, of course. But sometimes we forget.
But that's the challenge, isn't it? Is to structure our lives in such a way that we remember Krishna, and then we can be a touchstone for other people who also, Sometimes it's taboo, amongst devotees to say something about Krishna. It's a taboo. Sometimes it's a taboo to mention Krishna. Sometimes devotees we like to have sometimes the Guru Kulis do like that. We like to be devotees, but then we just like to more like hang out. But the fact that we're all devotees is like a given. It's a given. But then we can just talk all sorts of stuff. Maybe there's some, Krishna conscious angles on things, but we don't always speak, more like direct Krishna Katha. But if we try to do more direct Krishna Katha when you do associate, but I'm saying sometimes that can be a bit taboo, Oh, how were your rounds today? Or did you read today? Or, we can try and be more Krishna conscious. I think I am guilty of this, that's why I'm saying it, I can be just guilty of just, chatting, if you like, chatting instead of chanting, chatting. But I think we should take responsibility, because the time is, as when you get older, you realize less and less time, to become purified. Krishna Charan's nodding. You see that, how many days have I got left, Is it 3 figures? Is it maybe 4 figures of days left, We don't know how many. Bhakti Charu Maharaj, we're celebrating tomorrow his appearance day, but recently it was his disappearance day, so who's next? Okay, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.